was right across the street, right across 16th Street, from the rectory at Christ King Church. Temple Israel was. And one day there was a big scandal. Some thugs had come by and painted a big swastika on the side of the Temple Israel.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a very scandalous thing and got a lot of publicity.
Did you notice, or have you been aware of much anti-Semitism since growing up?
Oh, no.
No.
No. Well, like I told you about the trips to Colorado,
Mm-hmm.
that we went with the Rabinowitz family one time, and they had trouble finding accommodations in some of the motels there when they figured that there were Jewish people.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a big inconvenience, and I'm sure not kind of a downer for them too.
Did you feel like your family was tolerant of
Yeah,
all religions?
Yeah, we were.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we'd hear public things that were not good, but I think the family was, quite. Oh my goodness sakes, family was quite tolerant, and we had some Jewish friends.
Mm-hmm.
Dad sold bread to a lot of Jewish grocers in town. So.
Okay. So, we've been talking pretty much since you were in grade school. At what point did you leave Marquette, and where did you go?
I wanted to go to Cassia when I got out of the 8th grade,
Mm-hmm.
and that would put me in the 9th grade. Ninth grade, which would be the equivalent of being a freshman
Mm-hmm.
in high school. And I thought I was going because that's the grade that Tom went
Mm-hmm.
to Cassia, but Tom had a kind of a scholarship, and the folks couldn't afford it that year.
Mm-hmm.
It was maybe $150 a year,
Mm-hmm.
and so I couldn't go the first year. It really upset me. I was really upset about it for a while. But
So-
it worked out okay.
So where did you go? You went to another
I
year?
went to high school, first year, 9th grade at Marquette,
Okay.
and I still meet with a bunch of people that were my classmates then
Mm-hmm.
for lunch, third Tuesday of every month,
Mhm.
third Wednesday of every month.
Mm-hmm. Did Cassia have a certain reputation at that time?
So I guess they did. I don't know what it was. You know, most of the kids were wealthier kids. There's some of them were poor kids.
Were the poor kids on scholarship?
I think so. And I don't know, just, I was just a kid, so I didn't know
Uh-huh.
any of that stuff. I like the fact that I was just going to school with boys and have a lot of priests around. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, I liked it a whole lot.
You liked Marquette
Of course,
freshman
my
year?
brother wouldn't allow anybody to beat up on me either.
Are you talking about Cassia now?
Yeah.
Okay. So what was Cassia like? What was your experience
Well,
like?
It was pretty serious.
Academically?
Yeah,
Okay.
we had some of the priests were quite tough.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them, especially Father Wynn, was a disciplinarian,
Mm-hmm.
but the kids ended up liking him, except if you were a wimp, a mama's baby, didn't put up with any mama's baby, so some of the mamas were critical of him because of that. Father Wynn was a special favorite of my parents, and Father Suri was the headmaster, and Mother and Teresa Conway were kind of some of the head gals of the Parents Association.
Mm-hmm.
And Father Suri with my mother and Teresa Conway would get together, and he said, "Not, Catherine, let's do this." And he plotted out a procedure for them to get the parents to get behind some particular thing that he was in.
We're recording.
So, where were we?
We're talking about Cash App.
Yeah.
So academically, it was difficult. It was an all-boys school.
It was all boys school, and it was challenging. We didn't have any fun stuff. We just had math and physics and foreign language. Everybody took Latin for a couple of years and Spanish for a couple of years. That's the only languages they taught at that time. And most of the college prep schools, they had to take Latin. That was the big thing, a big thing it seemed like.
Mm-hmm.
They took religion, history courses, apologetics or explanation of religion, explanation of God.
What was your favorite class?
Huh?
What was your favorite class?
Oh, I think I like chemistry and physics most.
So you were into sciences.
Yeah, I kind of was. Took biology, chemistry, physics. And took math every semester. We didn't take any calculus in high school. And athletics, we played football in the fall, and we'd have early in the fall football practice in August. We'd go to that thing and go to practice, and I knew the practice uniforms would get sweaty and stinky, and they stayed that way all wet all during the season.
What was your favorite sport?
Well, I guess basketball.
Father Perez told me that you were the basketball star.
Well, I did okay when I was a senior year, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sonny Hanlon and I made most points on the team. Alan Norwood, Joe Lorcher, my brother Tom, Jim Conway. It was good. We had a good time playing basketball and football. They also had golf, but I didn't play golf at the time. So I just go out and carry clubs sometimes for some of the guys.
Okay.
They tried to have a tennis team, but I don't think that worked out. I don't know if we got any matches with anybody.
What was your favorite part of high school?
Well, let me see. Well, I think I liked it all. I didn't have any fears of anything then. I had a lot of good friends in high school, and had a good friend Gene Rowe. We liked to hunt and fish together. Gene played football and basketball for 1 year. And I hunted and fished with Gene a lot. That's what I did in my spare time there and at TU afterwards.
Where would you guys go hunting and fishing?
Oh, some places we'd do it mostly east of Tulsa. Sometimes around the Ozark Club. We'd float the creek from Uchi Dam on down, or from Uchi on down, and float the. We'd fish, hunt ducks on the Spavinaw Lake. We did some of it in a canoe. It's a wonder we never drowned. It's a wonder we never froze to death. I recall duck hunting. I don't recall duck hunting any time when my feet weren't cold.
Mm-hmm.
And the boots weren't dry either. They always would get wet. They always had leaks in them. So duck hunting was mainly a young man's game. They'd put up with the discomforts.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a lot of hunting and fishing then. It kind of raised hell with my love life.
Okay, let's talk about your love life.
I didn't have much. Well, I dated some girls. Sally Plank I dated her Sally White a little bit, and then at the latter part of my cashier, Sally Plank, who went to Central, in my class at Central, in my year at Central, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing very serious.
So your first girlfriend was in senior year?
Oh, probably junior, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And where would you meet girls? Where would you meet girls?
Well, there was always girls around after football practice, and sometimes they'd come over and watch football practice.
Mm-hmm.
And I dated some Holland Hall girls for a while. And Sally White was Holland Hall girl. Sally Plank was a Central High School.
Mm-hmm. What kind of reputation did Holland Hall girls have? How were they thought of?
It's nice.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty slick.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't chasing after boys much, but they're all nice, and never heard of anything derogatory said about any of them.
Mm-hmm.
They got in trouble just like everybody else did, though.
Okay. So Sally Plank and Sally White.
Yeah.
Any other girlfriends in high school?
Not in high school.
Okay. When you would break up with a girlfriend, was it sad or dramatic or?
Oh, yeah. That was the girl's idea usually.
Oh.
I never had to kiss off any little girlfriend or anything.
Yeah.
Where are we now?
We're in high school. So, after senior year, where did you go?
Well, after my senior year, I thought it was every young man in Tulsa. From all I knew, the only thing they're supposed to do is take petroleum engineering at the University of Tulsa and get into oil business. So, I signed up for petroleum engineering at Tulsa.
They didn't go to OU or OSU?
Wasn't any consideration of that.
Okay.
It didn't cost very much at TU, and there wasn't any room and board. I lived at home.
Mm-hmm.
Tom had gone off to his first year at college to Villanova University.
Mm-hmm.
And he did okay there. He thought he might play football, but he did not. He met some good friends, as he always did. One of his good buddies was the guy who would become commandant of the Marine Corps. In fact, he was the commandant of the Marine Corps when they had the bombing of the Beirut contingent barracks, the Marine barracks. It killed 170 Marines, I think, in a bombing. And he while he was commandant, and I forget the guy's name, but Tom had him visit in Tulsa a couple of times. He stayed at the house. Nice guy. But anyway, he got in trouble with the Marines. I don't know if he got sacked because of it, had to retire or what the heck, but anyway, there was a big come down, and he was a Marine commandant, so something like that happened, they'd blame it on the commandant. He didn't have it organized well enough. In college, I didn't do well the first couple of years. I just could not get serious and get organized in my study habits. I did not make good grades. I was on probation for 3 semesters,
Wow.
maybe 4. And I pledged Sigma Chi fraternity, Sigma Chi Alpha local fraternity, which was later Sigma Chi chapter. No, that didn't have anything to do with my not studying. It's a wonder they didn't kick me out, but finally I knew that I didn't have a good record, and that I was going to end up by going out and doing something else for a living. Unless I started studying, and we had one of the big breaker coming up, physical chemistry, which is usually weeded guys out that couldn't do it in engineering. They're going to have to go to business school or someplace like that. And all of a sudden I made my study habits concentrated on that. And going into the final, I was shooting for an A on the final, and I didn't quite make it, but I made a high B. So that kind of shot me in the butt and got going after that.
Okay.
And had good grades after that. And I'm glad I went to TU.
You're glad?
I remember Mr. Walker saying, he told me, he said, Mueller, you're smart, you're plenty enough smart, but you're just lazy.
You think that was true?
And it was.
What did you like to do more than studying during college?
Hunt ducks, fish.
Were you still friends with Gene, your friend?
Yeah. Gene's getting older. He's not remembering stuff too well now, but he always remembers when I call him. Remembers who I am and everything. And while we were in college, I went on several vacations with Gene and his family. And then Gene and I took a vacation one summer. We ended up driving to Colorado to fish. We stopped around Creede, Colorado. Fishing in the river there, it didn't do very good. Then we camped out of the car, didn't have a tent. We just camped alongside the road, or camped at a campground. And one day we decided, well, this isn't doing so good, let's go somewhere else. And we'd all read stories about fishing in Idaho by a guy named Ted Trueblood, who used to write for Field and Stream, Sports the Field, one of those magazines. And so one of us said, let's go to Idaho, and the other one said, well, where's Idaho? I said, I don't know, let's look at an atlas to find out where it is. And we did, we found out where Idaho was, and we took out about noontime and started heading to Idaho.
Was this on a weekend or during the school year or when?
This was in summertime.
Okay, so you weren't skipping school.
Yeah, we were gone on our little odyssey about 2 weeks anyway.
Okay.
And Jean and I ended up fished around the Salmon River some. In Idaho, and then we'd read some stuff about the Middle Fork of the Salmon. We found a road that went into the Middle Fork of the Salmon, or near the Middle Fork of the Salmon,
Mm-hmm.
over this pass, and it was on, stopped at Loon Creek Campground, which is at the end of the road, and we stayed there for about a week, and caught a salmon there. I think I have a picture of it.
You got a picture of it?
Yeah, the salmon was about so big. It was near dying. But we took our pictures with him. And I'll always remember that trip. It was really, really nice.
Mm-hmm. It was just the two of you?
Hmm?
It was just the two of you?
Yeah. We finally had to leave the Loon Creek whenever the only thing we had left for food was a jar of pimento cheese and a couple of leftover pancakes from that morning. So we took pimento cheese, put it on the pancakes, and going to use that for lunch, and put it in a sack, and went back the way we came. And we heard there was a lake called Mystery Lake, where there were some golden trout, and we walked up to that lake. And Jean caught a couple. I didn't catch any golden trout there at that time. Jean caught a couple with a fly rod. And we walked out to the car and started heading back. We didn't have much money left either, so started heading back and come through Yellowstone, I think, and over Togedy Pass and down to Casper, and we were pretty well driving day and night. Went down into Kansas on Highway 183 and drove the Lincoln Highway to near the town of North Platte. That's on the North Platte River. Town of North Platte in Nebraska, and turned south and got on 183, I think it was. And at night, we were come across some fog. We were driving along, and fog was getting bad. So we thought we'd just stop at Coldwater, Kansas, and went to a movie there. Thought maybe the fog would get better as the night went on, so I went to the movie.
Mm-hmm.
It was The Gunfighter. I think Gregory Peck was the star of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then got back in the car, and it was still too much fog, so we just pulled over into a gravel road and took our cots out and laid down with a blanket on it and went to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Till dawn, and by then the fog had cleared off. Clear sailing home. So we got back home.
Sounds like a good trip.
That was our adventure.
How old were you?
Scott did his
Mm-hmm.
Pacific trip, and
Mm-hmm.
Andrew did his Andes trip. So I don't know where Fred did it.
Grandpa, how old were you when you went on that trip with Jean?
I was 19 or 20,
19 and 20. Okay.
I figure.
Well, let's stop there.
Stop there?
Yeah.
That's a good place to stop.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I have pictures of most of this, by the way.
You do? Okay, good. Kasha, you had gone to TU, and you were telling me about your big camping trip that you and Jean went on to Idaho.
Yeah, Gene and I went to Idaho one summer.
Yeah.
And let me see, I took you up Loon Creek there. And coming back, we went to Mystery Lake. And then we started driving back to Oklahoma, back toward home. And we drove through, went down by, let me see, I think we went through Jackson, Wyoming. And I don't know how we got out of Idaho, but I think we went through Jackson, Wyoming. I don't know if we came over the pass there to Idaho or come in from the west. We went over Togody Pass and down past DuBois into Casper, and yeah, we went. I took you way past Coldwater, Kansas, where we saw the movie, and we threw our cots out on a side road there in the gravel road, as a matter of fact, and slept till the sun come up, and it was clear. It wasn't any fog anymore, so we drove on into Tulsa. That would be about 300 miles, I guess. And that was the end of that trip.
So, what year was that when you were in college, undergrad?
I don't know for sure. I can't tell you for sure.
Okay.
50, 51.
Okay. So, what year did you graduate TU with your undergrad?
My degree was in I was a class of 51. And I graduated after summer school then. I was a little bit slower than Gene. I didn't take as many courses as he did. Didn't load up as heavy as he did in the first part, so I needed a couple hours afterwards. And I got that, and then I planning on I was planning on going to graduate school, and I did sign up for graduate school. I think probably some trepidation by the professors, but I signed up for it anyway.
Why did you decide to go to graduate school and not go straight into working?
Well, I probably would have been drafted right away.
Drafted.
So I went to graduate school for a year. Finished up, hadn't done my thesis yet.
And you were getting your master's in petroleum engineering?
Yeah. But I went to work signed up for Amoco, with Amoco to go to work.
So you didn't finish your master's? You only did a year?
Well, later on I finished it.
Okay, so why did you take a break?
Why did I take a break?
Uh-huh.
I don't know, I was probably burned out, I guess, going to school.
Yeah.
But then I went to work up in, I was going to go to Salt Creek. They were going to send me to a Little Buffalo Basin field, but then they decided to send me to Salt Creek field instead. And I lived near in the town of Midwest, which is a company town. And there was a non-company town next to it called Edgerton. It had some more commercial places. But the company town had a restaurant, barber shop, churches, machine shops, and considerable housing for the employees.
What town was this?
Midwest Wyoming.
Midwest Wyoming. Okay. Was it common for people to travel up to Wyoming for work at that time?
I'm sorry?
Was it common for people your age to travel to Wyoming for work?
To work? Not so much. Most of the guys, until you did not working, would go to work in Wyoming. Another fellow there, Bob Ryan, Robert S. Ryan, who graduated in the same class as me, did go to work there. And not the same, he was a class after mine, graduated, I guess. But he did go to work there also at about the same time. He was an older fellow who'd been in the war and had a ship carrier shot out from under him during the Pacific. Anyway, Bob Ryan was there, and another fellow that I knew in Tulsa when Marquette School, a year behind me, Tom Hewer, came there. His father worked for Amoco, or rather Stanley Oil and Gas and Casper. I took the bus, had a suitcase and got on a bus in the bus station downtown Tulsa, and took the bus through Denver. I remember went through Denver at night. I guess we started in the morning and went through Denver, stopped at Denver at night, made a connection there, got on another bus, and we drove through the night. We had, I see the sun would dawn about somewhere along the Platte River. I didn't know exactly where I was. I didn't have a map to see where I was, point out the places of interest. So I was just looking new country all the time.
Were you excited to go up there to work?
Oh yeah, I was looking around the Platte River. I thought, what the hell is a Platte River? But it's a pretty big river, it had a lot of water in it, I knew. Finally came to Casper, and I called the company there, and the guy came out to pick me up, and the guy that came out to pick me up was assistant field superintendent, a guy named W.A. Van Hook. So he came down I was on a Sunday, I think it was, picked me up at the bus station, and drove me to Midwest and showed me a place where I'll be staying. The Antelope Well is the bunkhouse, the single men's bunkhouse. There was about 30 rooms in there where we, each bedrooms, and we had a detached bathroom and shower room. There are 2 or 3 small detached accommodations for some of the older guys. There's a bunch of single men there. And I met some other fellows there, a guy named Bob Beers. He eventually married a girl. Let me see, he married a girl who worked for, well actually she was the daughter of one of the superintendents there. And she worked during high school as a waiter in the Midwest Cafe, which was a local place where we went for our meals.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we had our breakfast, dinner. We always, when we were working, we had packed a lunch there. We bought the packed lunch for to go with our little dinner pail.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd go out in the field, and there was a whole lot of standard rig fronts in the field then. Pumping units, all pumping units. And the main producing sand was the Second Wall Creek sand. It operated basically by gravity drainage and depletion drive. And there's a gas cap in it. And several other zones there, Sundance and Ten Sleep Formation. Ten Sleep was sour oil, about 22 gravity oil that was sour. Not too many, not very many of those wells, but the main wells were the Second Wall Creeks and the Second Wall Creek sand. We did flow line leaks. We dig out dig a hole down to the lead lines were all buried because it was cold and the oil would freeze if it was left up at the surface. So they were about 4 feet down under the surface. The flow lines were. And when there was a leak, they'd find that there was a leak by oil seeping up to the surface, and you'd dig a hole right down there, and they shut the well off that the leak was coming from, so it wouldn't pressure it up anymore. You'd dig a well down there with shovels and wrap around it what's called a Skinner clamp. It's a clamp that went around the pipe. Mm-hmm. and bolted in on the outside. And since the pipe round had a piece of rubber in there that went over the leak, and you started the well up, and if it didn't leak any, then they filled in the hole, and that was it.
So you're working out in the field mostly?
Yeah, it was always in the field then.
Always in the field.
First year. And also we pulled the wells out. If they stopped pumping any oil, that would mean that we had to pull the rods and the pump out. That was down about 1,200 feet below. Pull it out with a pull-in unit, which is a big truck. The field was electrified, so we drive right up to a well and plug in the electricity, and we're ready to go. And pull the tubing out, put in a new or reworked pump, and run it back in to get it working again. Sometimes we pull 2 or 3 wells a day. And that was pretty active work. It was cleaner than doing the connection work because you weren't in the hole any.
Was it really cold during the winter time?
Oh yeah, plenty cold in the winter time. Several times it was down below 0. But we don't get much work done like that. You find a reason to go inside somewhere.
Yeah.
And find some work to do inside some building or something. Mm-hmm. But you don't get much work done in that weather unless you're spending a whole lot of money waiting. If you're doing that, then when you have a big rig waiting, you can't shut those things down because there's continuing operation there. Mm-hmm. So when it got real cold, it was kind of hard to get anything done. Whenever we started talking about the weather, all the guys would say, "Yeah, you should have been here in 1949. That's the year of the big blizzard." They always talked about the winter of '49. Then that's the one everybody experienced, except the new guys.
So what would you do on the weekend for fun?
Well, 3 things we did. One of them, if it's in the right season, we'd go fishing. There are some, not any creeks right around there. There's some creeks and rivers, 40, 50 miles from there that we'd drive to. Go fishing. You have to know your way around. I didn't know my way around there for a while, but other guys took me out. We went up to the Red Fork of the Powder River. It was my first place I went fishing there with a guy named Bud, who was he was a supervisor. He's a gang pusher, I guess is what you call him, a gang pusher. He was a supervisor, he wasn't a roustabout, he was a gang pusher. He took me up there, he knew the people there, and we got in, caught quite a few trout, little trout. Biggest was maybe 12 inches. Rainbows, some browns and some brookies. I don't think we caught any cutthroat in there. Other times we'd go to the old places like the Middle Fork of the Powder River, and went in Outlaw Canyon, walked down, parked above and went down into Outlaw Canyon. And the fish were larger there, mostly browns, but they took a fly pretty easily.
So you did a lot of fishing.
Yeah, quite a bit, whatever we could. And hunting in season. I bought a rifle from a guy named Darwin Creek for $100. It was a, what kind was it? It was a lever action rifle, caliber 25-36, although it would shoot a 25-35 cartridge. Had a hex barrel. I bought that for $100 from Darwin Creek, who was one of the roustabouts, local ones there. It was an old family heirloom, but he sold it to me for $100, and then later on, I showed it to one old boy, one of the single riflemen there in the camp, and he was a guy that was a machinist. His name was Shorty, I think it was. And I asked him what he think of it, and he said, "Oh, it'd make a good crowbar." So I told Darwin about that, and he didn't think much of that.
So you did some hunting too?
And then later on, I bought a Winchester Model 7270, and that was my gun I tried to use for big game. I didn't kill any big game up there though. I'd gone out antelope hunting in a ranch that was right next to the field, and didn't find anything there. I didn't know how to do it myself, but I went by myself, and that's probably the only reason I got on to hunt on the ranch, because I was by myself, and I guess I looked like an okay guy. Couldn't do much harm. No. I find out that when you want to hunt or fish on somebody's property, you have a whole lot better chance if you're by yourself and don't have a whole gang of people with you. A bunch of them cause trouble. And we'd go in sometimes on Thursday nights. They had a smorgasbord at the Henning Cafe, at the Henning Hotel. There's 3 hotels. The Henning, the Goldman, the Golston, and I don't recall the name of the other one right now. But they're all on 3 corners on 2nd Street, which was the main drag in town. But the Henning Hotel on Thursday night had a smorgasbord, pitch till you win thing. And I used to go in there and specialized in eating the pickled herring. But we found out that you get the better, you can eat more of the good stuff if you don't fill your plates up with salad at the front of the line. We go by the salad, get down to the meats for you. We still had room on the plate. And that was a big event. Sometimes we get a couple of drinks. We stopped at the 114 Club, which was up around the corner, and have a couple of drinks of scotch or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Were there any girls up there that you liked?
Oh yeah, there's some girls there. I went out with one young lady several times. God, I forget her name. But she was nice, and she kind of liked me, but I wasn't interested in getting serious, so that didn't last too long. She was in a sheep ranching family. I think her father had a sheep ranch outside of town. And I also started skiing. Bought a pair of wooden skis. They had a ski lift on Casper Mountain. That's the mountain south of Casper, just real close to town. And that's where we'd go skiing there, and it wasn't very good skiing, but that's all we knew about. We also went a time or two to Red Lodge, Montana. Drive up there from Casper. And we also went to Jackson, Wyoming. The ski lift they had was on the mountain right back of Casper, right in back of Jackson. Snow King Mountain, I guess, was the name of it. And that was pretty steep for me. I remember one time going up there and it almost froze my ears off. I had an earmuff, I guess, but I still almost froze the top of my head off coming down that one morning.
Was that your first time skiing?
I used to fall most of the way down the mountain.
Used to fall? When did you learn how to ski, Grandpa?
Well, off and on, I started then. I didn't take a lesson.
Okay.
I know how to get on a rope tow and do some stuff like that.
Yeah.
Without killing myself. Didn't have any money, and they didn't have much facilities then where we were anyway.
Yeah. So you were there in Midwest City for 1 year?
I was in Midwest for 1 year, yeah.
1 year. How old were you then?
22.
22.
And I also worked inside in a warehouse there a little bit in Midwest.
Doing what?
So I got acquainted with all sorts of equipment and stuff like that.
What were you doing in the warehouse?
Well, I just worked as a clerk there. Guy said they want 2 3-inch L's. I'd get them 2 3-inch L's and And he'd fill out the paperwork, and this was a company warehouse. We'd have to get a ticket on everything to count for everything.
So you were working for the A&M Oil and Gas Company and at the warehouse.
Working at the warehouse, and it was a company, Amoco.
Okay.
Whether Amoco, that was a Stanley Oil and Gas.
Mm.
And then I got sent by the company to work as a junior petroleum engineer in Rangeley, Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
I had bought from a guy from Cutbank, a student who's a summer employee. I bought a 38 Buick from him for $105. There seemed to be the going price for a lot of things, rifles and
Cars.
for $105, 38 Buick Coupe. And I drove it down to Rangeley, Colorado. That's in northwestern Colorado. About 20 miles east of the Utah border on the White River. It was a big oil field. Discovered in 1930, and they developed it during the war, during the WW2 basically, right before the war and during. And I got there after the field was drilled. And again, I lived I drove in there. I remember I could see it was an overcast night. I drove in there at night, and it was an overcast night, but there's a high overcast, and you could see a red glow from the flare in the field. The gas was processed, and the liquids taken out, what liquids they could get out easily, taken out, and the flare was, and the gas was burned. They re-injected some of it, but they didn't have compression facilities to re-inject all of it. So, and it was a competitive operation. There were several operators, so talking about unitizing for water flooding, it didn't happen until after I had left there. I worked I had a bunkhouse. It was a much smaller bunkhouse than the one we had in the Midwest. And we didn't have a company town, we just had company houses and the bunkhouse. And it was called the camp. Chevron, Standard in California, had a camp there also, and so did the Texas company have a camp. All the major operators had a camp there. It was pretty remote. Let me see, as I was in Rangeley, same old stuff. We'd get to the mountains when we could, and get fishing when we could, and hunted when we could. There's a lot of deer around Rangeley, south and north of the town. There's a great big area south of the town that had just oodles of deer. And a lot of big migrating deer herd there, with wild horses. I recall I went to a rodeo there, and you had the usual stuff you have at rodeos: steer roping and bulldogging and saddle and bareback bronc riding. And they had a wild horse race, as they call it, a wild horse race. They'd the cowboys in town in the area would go down south of town and capture some actual wild horses. They'd bring in about 20 of them in trucks. They'd put the horses in a chute and they let them out they had nothing, no bridle or anything on them. They'd let the horses out, and the cowboys, which consisted of a team of 2 men, would go out and lasso one of the horses, lasso them. There's several of these going on at the same time. They lasso a horse, pull him in, try to subdue him, put a harness on him so that they'd have some control of his head. And one cowboy would get on the back of him. I don't know if they tried to get a saddle on him, if they had to get a saddle on him or not. But I think they'd try to saddle him too. And they'd let him loose there, and the prize money was suspended from a rope that went across the arena. It was suspended and a bag of it there. And the guy that got the prize money was the guy that could get his wild horse over to that. They had to pick it up while he was sitting on the horse.
That sounds hard.
And guys were getting kicked in the head. And it was the craziest thing I've ever seen. I often wonder how long that wild horse race went on after I left there. I mean, how many years it went on.
It sounds pretty dangerous.
There's now a wild horse preserve back there in some area. The government spent a pile of money making a wild horse preserve. Anyway, that's one of the big deals at Rangeley. Also, Rangeley was 160 miles from Aspen.
Okay.
So sometimes we would go up to Aspen just for a Sunday drive and then go skiing.
Nice.
Didn't get much in. And sometimes we go for the weekend, Saturday and Sunday. We usually stayed at the Prince Albert Hotel, which was I don't know exactly where it is. The building is probably there, but it was kind of wasn't really a hotel, it's just kind of a bunk. That's community rooms, kind of like a dormitory for most of them for the men. So after a single guy would spend the night sometimes, usually. That's where we did. It was quite a bit different than it is now. And the Little Nell, what's called Little Nell, was a run out on a slope. And there's no, well, there's still a run out there, you can ski right down to it. You were there in the winter, weren't you?
No, I got there in June and I stayed till mid-October.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me see. That brought me to Rangeley. I was at Rangeley a couple of years, and one time my brother, during deer season, my brother Tom and my brother Dick drove up. Tom had just got back from Korea and he wanted to take a trip, and so he and Dick drove up in Tom's car, and we went hunting over the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, up to a place. It's on the Green River comes in from the north, and goes into Colorado for about 20 miles and then goes out. And there's some big canyons along the Green River. But this place we got into, you could kill 2 deer. It had a very long season, supposed to be too full of deer, although we didn't see any. But we'd go in through Utah and go up to the high plateau and hunt there around a place called Wild Mountain or Diamond Mountain. Wild Mountain and Diamond Mountain. Diamond Mountain was a place where somebody had a mining scam went on in the turn of the century, the 18th, about the year 1900, where they salted some gold and on the ground and picked some of it up and sold it to these. And they didn't sell the gold; they sold the claim for a big amount of money. And the people that bought it were soon decided that they'd been scammed and the money was salted there. By salting, they'd take flake gold and just throw it around on the ground, and look, we found a gold mine. That was the name of called Diamond Mountain. I think that was the name of it. We went hunted by Wild Mountain was the name of it. Didn't hunt on the mountain. It was snowy. It was quite cold. We had about 10 inches of snow on the ground. Up there with the car, just had chains on, and going up and down the road up to the pass was pretty. Had to use chains. But you do that, you drive that, and there's a bunch of clay soil, and would pick up great big hunks of clay, and you'd have to go 100 yards and jack the car up and knock the clay mud off the tires, and then you put it back in and go up another 100 or 200 yards. We finally got to the top and got along okay. But going down was the same thing. When we left there, we couldn't even drive that down the hill. It was too sticky. Pretty steep road, but it was still too sticky. You had to keep knocking the mud and clay off the tires. Got back in town. And without any game, the next day we went to the bunkhouse, and they went to, I don't know where they slept, if they slept in my room or what. We camped out up on top of the mountain. We had a tent. And went back to Rangeley. The next day, Dick and Tom went out, and Tom got him a mule deer, 4 points on each side. And that deer was, Tom had that mounted. He drove back and had it mounted at, I'm trying to think of the name of the town. It's near the Wet Mountains. And not too far from a big canyon there on the east side of the mountains. I forget the name of it now. He had it mounted there, and after a while it was delivered to him, and he put it up, we put it up, Tom put it up, and they put it up in the clubhouse at the Tulsa Ozark Club over the fireplace, and it was there for many years. And fairly recently I noticed that somebody had taken it down.
I remember it.
They'd put it in a room right there in the living room. So I got hold of it and I took it home.
Okay. Is it in your house now?
Yeah, but it was deteriorating badly.
Mm-hmm.
So I just removed the horns from it.
Mm.
And I have the horns in my garage now. I'm going to put them on a board.
I remember that so well. That deer head. The old deer.
Yeah.
Grandpa, I think that's a good place for us to stop.
Good place to stop?
No.
Okay.